Innes FitzGerald. Innes FitzGerald.
FitzGerald here.
Innes FitzGerald.
FitzGerald towards the front already.
Fifth fastest Briton in history.
There's Innes FitzGerald.
FitzGerald.
It's Innes FitzGerald.
Quite brilliant running.
It's a standing ovation. Innes FitzGerald annihilates the championship record. Untouchable today. Nobody could get close to Innes FitzGerald, a major star of European and global distance running.
What a future for Innes FitzGerald.
Once in a while, a person emerges onto the running scene in such a spectacular way, they redefine what it means to be fast. The name Innes FitzGerald has become more and more well known as a running prodigy, dominating almost all of her age group races as she rose up the ranks. Now 19 years old, Innes's rocket ship journey continues to rise, having run for Great Britain on the world stage at the Diamond League, and Innes is now a double European under-20 gold medalist in the 3,000 and 5,000 metre events. Over the past 3 years, I've gotten to know Innes and recently asked her if she'd like to tell me her incredible story on the JOG ON podcast.
Yeah, there's one moment, and I don't think I've spoken about it before.
At the time this conversation was recorded, Innes had not yet broken 15 minutes for the 5,000, but since then has gone on to run an astonishing time of 14:39, breaking the European record for the fastest ever female in her age group, previously held by Zola Budd and 5th on the UK all-time list.
I didn't really realise how good I was.
This is an insightful episode, and it provided a great chance to get to know Innes, her thoughts and dreams.
When I run like really good times and stuff like that, I'm always like wanting something else, and I find it sometimes quite hard to appreciate.
This is all available in video on the JOG ON podcast YouTube channel if you'd like to watch, or in audio on any podcast platform if you prefer to listen. You can play JOG ON during a drive, on a run, or as you relax in the evening with a cup of tea, in the excellent JOG ON mug, of course. I'm Harry Morgan, this is the JOG ON podcast, and please welcome the future of distance running, Innes FitzGerald.
I used to work in like small kind of health food shop in Seaton, and there was a guy that would come in, and every time he came in he'd speak about my name, and it'd be like, oh, it's like some island in Scotland or something. So I don't know whether it's like Scottish or Irish, but I think it's one of the two, but I don't know.
So at 4 years old, you moved to Beer in Devon. For people who don't know Beer, it's quite a small seaside place. What was it like growing up in Beer? Because when you get to your teenage years, I grew up in a small town in the Cotswolds, you can feel a little bit trapped. Did you get out a lot in nature? Obviously you're on a, can I call it a farm or a small holding? What's the best description?
Yeah, a small holding, I guess.
Cool. So on a small holding, I know that's many years to cover, but roughly what was childhood like growing up in Beer?
Yeah, I think my parents were very busy working most of the time. So kind of any free time on the weekends and stuff, we'd always go out and do kind of an activity together as a family, whether that's like going for a cycle ride, going sailing. We weren't that sociable, I don't think, as a family with like the other families in Beer, but I think that's because my parents were so busy they didn't really have time to kind of interact with the other parents as such. But going to secondary school kind of wasn't that nearby, so I don't know, I think we kind of grew up a bit out the way from other people, but I'd cycle over to Seaton, it's about a 10-minute cycle, and then meet friends there. But I think I like the fact that I lived out the way. I think I'm grateful for the fact that we live kind of a bit out the way.
On the small holding, were there animals? Did they grow food at all? What was sort of happening on the small holding?
We used to have chickens and sheep and geese at one point, but now as a family we're turned vegan, so we don't have any animals anymore. But yeah, just growing fruit and veg, and yeah, selling that to kind of local shops and people nearby. Keeping us going really.
It seems like, even since you're fairly young, there was an interest in sport in general before we get into the specifics of running. When you're at school, you're trying different sports, and as you say, when you're stuck in Beer, it can be a little tricky, but when you can get to sport clubs, etc., you were participating in some bits and pieces. Was there any hint early on, do you have any memory of doing a bit of running and thinking, oh, I can run quite well? Were you ever out on a cross-country loop or an athletics track or anything where you noticed the running, or did that genuinely not come until much later that you really had a realisation that there was some potential?
Yeah, there's one moment, and I don't think I've spoken about it before. I was like year 2 in school, and then we did, I don't know why we were doing it. It must have been like for charity or something, some kind of like sponsored thing. We like ran around like the school playing field, and I think I must have won or come like in the top like 2 or 3. But bearing in mind, we were like running with like the year 3s and 4s, I think.
Yeah.
And then the headmaster at the time, he ran the cross country club, and he was like, "Oh, you can come along." Like, it was meant to be only for like year 3 and above. So I remember going to that for a bit. I don't know how long I went to it for. At the time, I didn't really think much of it, but looking back, I guess that was kind of the moment where I guess I did show some potential. That was the early sign that there might be something there.
It's nice when someone has that memory that's a little bit of a seed of things to come. I've noticed that most people I've spoken to who have got success in their running later on, genuinely, there tends to be some sort of hint that they have some memory of something like yours just there. It doesn't just come from completely nowhere. There's some sort of clue early on that there might be some natural ability there. So skipping forward then, I mean, you've talked about before, you go through a bit of a kind of a, like you just alluded to there, a lack of running during teenage years, which is what a lot of teenagers go through. There's kind of an interest in social side and things, and it's a little bit of trying to find your identity. You've spoken openly before about the fact that school wasn't like the easiest period of life. You were someone that felt like you didn't completely always fit in. Were you someone that was like, are you a bit of a people pleaser? And so you were at the time just trying to work out that identity. How do you look back on the schooling period?
Yeah, I think I kind of just wanted to conform and be like everyone else. Looking back, I kind of realised that that was probably why I didn't necessarily do the things that I would have liked to have done necessarily. Year 7 and 8, like the early years of secondary school, I think I was kind of like wanting to do what was cool. And sport at the school I was at was not seen as cool in any way. If you were trying in PE, that was looked down upon. But I think that's why lockdown in some ways was quite good for me, because it gave me the opportunity to just like take a step back away from everyone else and kind of realize who I was rather than who I was kind of trying to be like.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you almost had a bit of a reset to come away, and I guess you get that breather. So talk us through that moment before lockdowns. We're at 2019 now. I've got to try and do the maths. You were about 13, 14, something around that. What is it that gets you starting to go out on runs? Were you interested in just getting out into nature around beer? Were you like just looking for something to do? Why did you start running at that point, do you think?
Well, I think it was down to my sister, actually. She was doing her 1 or 2 runs a week for her Gold DV. She might have asked me to go out, or I said, can I come out with you? So then I plodded around with her, and it was at no pace, and it was probably about 10 minutes each run, but it was kind of enough to kind of get the ball rolling. And I realised I quite enjoyed being out and just like running along the coast path or going down to the beach. I think after a few weeks, I decided I'd go out just by myself off my own bat, and then, yeah, it just progressed from there. And then I started running, I guess, about 4 or 5 times a week during lockdown. It kind of gave me a purpose to get up in the morning, it felt like. Sometimes even now, if I like don't have a run to do, I'm like, well, why am I getting out of bed? I can just stay here all day. So it's quite nice to, have something to look forward to and get you up in the morning.
Did your parents and family, sister, around this kind of period, as you get sort of 6 months more in, did they just look at it as, oh, Innes is just out running quite a lot? Did they understand that you were starting to do quite well with your running? How long has it taken them to catch up with the idea that Innes is doing quite well with her running now?
It wasn't until after lockdown when we came back and then I won the Southwest Cross Country and then was second to English schools. I think it wasn't until then that even I didn't really realise how good I was. And my family definitely didn't have any knowledge about the running space at all. Like, I remember I crossed the line second at English schools, and then people around me were talking about, the SIAB in Schools International. I had no idea what they were talking about. And they were like something about an England vest. I was like, what even is this? Yeah, even then I didn't really realise what was going on. And I still now feel a bit like, I don't know, a bit like a bit of a novice, even though I'm not, and I've been in the space for quite a while. I feel like I'm constantly learning different things about like how competitions work, different people, and like their accolades and things like that. And there's still so much more to learn.
I think that's totally fair. You're 19 right now. I think it's a massive difference from when you find yourself a quarter of a century when you're 25. I think the amount of learning that can still happen in the next 5 to 6 years is absolutely massive. And I guess as you're just still continuing to find yourself and grow that identity, you're growing that identity on the side of running at this level, conducting interviews and stuff. And that's a crazy thing to juggle. Do you find at all that when you're back in beer with the parents at the small holding, because life is getting a bit crazy, you're traveling to these mad places, doing these big things, being interviewed, all this kind of stuff, do you almost appreciate going back to the quietness and the calm of beer even more when you come away from big competition?
I like to go back home, and I think that's partly why I kind of stayed close to home for uni and stuff. It's crazy right now what's going on like with everything, but it's nice to just get a bit of fresh air and kind of a bit of normality back.
And probably really good for the mindset as well. There's a lot of pressure on one's shoulders when they run at this kind of level, or there can be, and it depends how you handle it. And I imagine that's going to be a powerful tool in the future, that you have this place you can go back to. So no matter how crazy things get with how your running is going, you always have this place you can go back to where it's quite peaceful, it's calm, and you can go fruit picking, whatever, etc. We touched on briefly there about your kind of starting to realise this is going well, there's more on this journey, England best, etc. Are there any kind of specific moments along the Innes timeline which jump out at you as moments where you see it as sort of a clunk forward in that self-belief and that realisation? Is it breaking 9 minutes in the 3000? Is it winning a particular race? What are those moments for you where you kind of looked around and went, oh, wow, this is going quite well?
I think when I run like really good times and stuff like that, I'm always like wanting something else. And I find it sometimes quite hard to appreciate what I have done. And it's only like looking back retrospectively, I'm like, okay, that was a milestone. Like you said, I think running sub 9 for the 3000 was a big like jump at the time. But yeah, looking back, that was probably one of the big milestones. I think English schools win on the track definitely felt like a big one. 3000 in Ostrava when I ran 840. That was kind of a big jump. And that was kind of like, right, okay, we're in a good place now. And then, yeah, the Diamond League a couple of weeks ago was definitely a step up again.
Your 8:32 3000, I actually wrote down for people who are interested what that is per lap. It's completely sickening, the pace. It's 68 seconds per 400 meters. Blows my mind. When we go and do 400 reps, if I'm having a brilliant like session and everything's going well, once in a while I'll crank out a 68-ish, but I really have to be on form and feeling good to be doing that in 400 reps. The idea of you keeping that going for 3000 is absolutely mind-blowing. At the time when you ran the 3000 PB this year, how much is it hurting from how early on? Or is it one of those ones you felt like you almost could have gone quicker? Like how much pain were you in when you ran 8:32?
I find it difficult to remember the race. I was chatting to Gav, my coach, afterwards, and because he was watching in the stadium, and he was like, lap 2, you made like a uncomfortable face, and he thought I was going to like fall off the back because I was at the back at this point. And he was like, oh no, and it's having a bad day. But then I came back round apparently and I looked more relaxed. So I think sometimes in races it kind of like goes in waves. You feel bad, but then you come out of the bad patch. And I think in that race, I think I just felt better and better the whole race. And I think because I was moving through the field, it gave me kind of confidence that I was running well. And I don't know whether the pain came as soon as I thought it was going to. But obviously that last lap was going to hurt or whatever. So yeah, I was kind of in the bin at the end.
Yeah. Innes, there's this weird thing when you're growing up and having this running potential that you have to, of course, put in a certain amount of your life into dedication to training. And naturally what happens is if you take a sample pool of many other 19-year-olds, you know, their lives will look quite different from your life in many respects. How have you juggled the sort of social side of things? Like, for example, when you moved schools to do A-levels in a new place. Of course, there's a massive social scene there. You came to university, there's a big social scene there. Are you someone that's always just kind of been okay with saying no to certain social situations because you have that run the next morning? Or will you sometimes give yourself sort of a particular night off, etc.? How do you juggle training with the social side?
When I kind of started running in like at secondary school, when I was running then, it was get up in the morning, I'd run and then go to school. And because it wasn't too serious, like I didn't mind if I had to miss a run or if I was going out that evening and then didn't end up running the next morning, that was fine. Like I think I've always had quite a relaxed approach because my parents weren't taking anything, they didn't really know what was going on. They were never like forcing me to do anything. So it was like kind of always off my own back. So everything seemed quite relaxed. Moving to kind of sixth form, things were getting a bit more serious and I was kind of like taking things a bit more seriously. But then I guess coming to uni, that's when I kind of have had to make more decisions relating to like kind of whether it's going to impact my performance or not. But I think the balance is really important. When you kind of start uni, you don't know anyone, and I think that first bit's really important to kind of like try and socialize and meet other people. Yeah, running might take a hit for a couple of weeks while I kind of settle in and get to know people, and then I can kind of explain to people like, yeah, I can't come out because I've got to run, but because I've already kind of been out and had some of those kind of experiences with my friends already, it's not like, I don't know, they're kind of a bit more understanding. I think if you go to uni and like don't go out, it can be quite difficult and you feel a bit more isolated because you feel like everyone else knows each other and you don't. So yeah, I was kind of like wanting to make sure that first few weeks and I guess month of being at uni, I was kind of doing as much socializing as I could within reason, so that I was in a place that I felt comfortable and I liked to be.
Yeah, that's really good. I think that's a really healthy attitude, because I think there could be the error of going there and then quickly just sort of being the sort of running recluse who doesn't really know anyone exactly, and then that wouldn't help you psychologically as well. You've talked about balance before and the importance of sort of almost being careful not to completely identify as I am a runner and that's all I do, but to have other things that you like doing as well. You moved to Exeter, so you decided not to go too far away. I'm assuming that's partly because you had a great setup with Gavin and Joe and you felt, well, everything's going well here, why change this now? When you moved into Hull, you were in Hull's first year? Yeah, and you literally just finished your first year of university, which I'm imagining probably flew by quite quickly, the fact that you've already done a year.
Yeah.
How was it when you met people in your halls? Did you sort of were you known as the running girl quite quickly?
When I meet people, I don't tend to say anything about running, and I think it was like probably the second week, I think someone had found me on Instagram or something, and it was like, then the word kind of spread around that I did running, and people were seeing me go out the door kind of in the morning in my running kit. I was just packing up like a couple of days ago, and the cleaner was there, and she was like, oh, I'm gonna miss seeing you going out in the morning.
Oh,
she
wow.
always would see me. It took a little bit of time for it to kind of settle in for people to understand, but I think it's better that way. I think if you go in kind of like, oh, this is who I am, and yeah, I run loads, I think people perceive you in a different way, where it's quite nice for people to get to know you kind of outside running, and then they kind of see you as that rather than the runner. This was
a bit of a hole in my research. I didn't actually delve into this side of things, but with the athletics club at university, how involved have you got with the university side of the athletics club?
I would actually say quite a low level of involvement. I would have liked to have been a bit more involved, but I think because of the training setup I already had, it meant that I wasn't doing sessions at the same time as them. And I didn't actually put the extra vest on. I've got one, but I didn't actually wear it. So I feel a bit bad, but I will definitely wear it at some point.
They're probably like, I can't believe Innes FitzGerald's in halls, and like, we need her to run for us. We get good points. Maybe that could be a goal for year 2 and 3 to try and wear the extra vest once or twice in a couple of races. Yeah, absolutely. And then there may be something where you can work out a social run you can join them on that fits around the schedule, and then the rest of your training can still be the normal setup. But maybe there's a future. You could look at it in year 2 of Exeter. You're studying sports science at university. Is that something you've always been interested in, the biology, the science side of your performance, and do you almost try and use some of that to your advantage? Advantage is a bit strong, but do you look at that and then compare it to your own running as you start to learn more? Is that something you've always been interested in, sports science?
Yeah, I think the course has definitely helped, because I can like apply the stuff we learn, or like in lectures when they're talking about things, I'm like, oh yeah, like that's kind of true. Like especially like the psychology side of it, I find that quite interesting. And I've always been quite a mathsy, sciencey, numerical kind of person. So I always find it interesting when you're like looking at data and stuff, if we're like in the lab doing some testing or something.
Is the studying taking over a lot of your time, or is it still at that kind of lowish level where it's all very manageable around your training? How are you balancing studying at university with training?
Yeah, I don't want to jinx anything. The first year's been okay. I think it's quite nice to have kind of something else to do on the side that, although it relates to sport, it's like a bit different. And yeah, it hasn't been too much of a struggle. I think second and third year the workload might ramp up a bit, but I'm prepared for that. And it's just, balancing and managing my time so I can fit everything in.
That's awesome. We touched on your parents briefly, and the fact that you referenced there that they weren't particularly aware of what the training meant and didn't have that kind of background necessarily. So is there any background at all with your family and running? Have you even heard about a grandparent that was a runner or anything like that? Or are you completely by yourself in that world?
Well, whichever grandparent I talk to, they kind of claim that it was them. My granddad gave me some kind of medal for something that he won, but it was a long, long time ago. Rumour has it that my dad was quite good at running at school, but he was a bit of a troublemaker, and he could have done quite well, but I think he just wasn't as competitive.
If you want to improve your running and are looking for some great running structure to smash that personal best, we've put together clear, detailed and easy to use training plans for all distances from 5k up to marathon. We've spent hundreds of hours on them to make them the best we can, and all JOG ON training plans are built around the concept of flexibility to fit your runs into a busy schedule. Read more about them at thisisjogon.com. That's thisisjogon.com.
If you pop up at a local park run now, have you noticed an increase in people coming up to you and just being like, oh, well done, Innes? Like, have you noticed that increase quite significantly of people recognising you?
Especially in Seaton, because I don't do it that often. When I do go back, it's always like seems like a dramatically more people are speaking to me. But
really
it's always
cool. That's
nice.
really cool.
It's always nice, yeah. And I like to get down there every once in a while and just like, I paced a couple of weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago now, actually.
What bib did you wear? What time were you pacing?
25, I think.
Yeah.
22 or something like that.
Were you able to go that slowly in this? Was it all right?
It was okay.
5 kilometers? Do you work in minute miles or minute kilometers, by the way?
Oh, kilometers all the way.
Yeah. I was going to say. I was just interested because of the background with Joe Pavey, etc., and coming from that kind of background. But yeah, no, obviously kilometers are taking over. I'm kilometers as well. But no, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's good to go back and see the people who kind of helped me at the beginning as well. You don't want to come across as being like too professional and too good for everyone else. And I think it's nice to kind of chat to the youngsters as well.
I think you've tapped on something that's really powerful there. I've noticed that if someone who is running at an extremely high level goes and does more grassroots local stuff, people seem to really appreciate it. And they go, oh, because there's this automatic thing of like, well, will this elite runner come across as an elite runner? Or if they're just like a normal person that just will chat to you and also will go down and pace 25 minutes. My experience is that people just absolutely love that because it kind of feels like that elite runner is remembering the kind of, as I say, the grassroots or kind of where it all started sort of thing. Your early days at Seaton Park Run are some of the foundations, the beginnings of the Innes FitzGerald journey.
And I think it's easy as you get better to kind of forget about how amateurs appreciate having other people there. Like as you get better, you kind of forget that people really appreciate it when you just go back and even if just to show your face or cheer some people on, like you don't even have to run. It's just nice to kind of show up and show that, give a bit of support.
That's awesome. You've now started to experience different surfaces, Innes. I think originally when I used to picture the Innes FitzGerald coming in across the finish line, it was a cross-country finish line. That's where a lot of the successes were. But now you've started to get more experience on the track, a little bit of road running. When you compare those surfaces, what do you look forward to when you're racing? If you've got a race coming up this weekend, if it was a cross-country race or a track race or a road race, what would you be most looking forward to as a surface?
I think the track, just because of the atmosphere, and I think the buzz kind of being in a stadium is like so much better than being like out on a lonely cross country course.
The wind and the rain, yeah.
Yeah, I think cross country is where it all began because you kind of start doing that at school and that's kind of the way in. And I do love like the cross country, the mud and the wet. I think I will always kind of enjoy doing that, but kind of running in a stadium with a big crowd, that's kind of where it's at for me. And I think, where I enjoy it most.
That's awesome. That's a great answer. So cross country is, you're still sort of feel warm towards cross country because of the memories, etc. And I guess it'll always be a part of your running. But yeah, track is the buzz, track is the passion, track is the fun way to run and to race.
Yeah. And I guess like in the future, I'll probably dabble with the roads a bit more and maybe progress to them like in later years. But if I want to get to like bigger championship events, I need to be running well on the track because that's where it's at.
I don't want to bore you by asking a question that I know you've been asked previously in interviews, but obviously one thing that used to get brought up a lot was your style of running, going out basically hard from the start, hard in the middle and hard at the end, and making a big gap from other runners. There was an interview where you said about the sort of the paranoia that someone still could catch you, but then there's also been an element of just wanting to give it your all and give it your best. So I guess now that you're 19, you can look back over a few more years of a career. Has that tactic started to change at all? Do you run races a little differently now? And do you know the reason as to why when you have run that hard from the front, where that comes from now that you're 19 when you look back at it?
I feel like I was kind of like thrust into these competitive races having done no races before that. It almost felt like I hadn't done races in under 11 or under 13. I didn't really know how to race. It was kind of like, okay, we're running, so we just got to go. The start goes off and you just got to run as fast as you can for as long as you can, just hold on. It was a good way to get like the most out of myself, but I've learned from, I guess, running it the hard way. You kind of have to go into races a bit more aware of how you're feeling, whether that's tactically or just even if you are running from the front, knowing that there's some left and you're not completely running yourself into the ground, and then just end up getting slower. I think European under 20 cross country when it was in Turin, I can't remember which year that was, but I ended up fourth, and I think that was kind of the turning point for me. I was like, okay, I could have won this race, but I just got it tactically wrong. Whenever something goes badly, I'm kind of thinking of that race and I'm like, we don't want that to happen again. There's always mistakes made, and I think I ran a 5K a couple of weeks ago and I went out too hard, and in hindsight, I should have just been a bit more in tune with how I was feeling. But I think it sometimes just takes that one race at the beginning of the season to kind of be like, right, just remind yourself that there are consequences if you go out too hard and push yourself too much from the gun.
There was a period, I think it's fair to say, that you would show up on a cross-country start line and already the whispers of, Innes FitzGerald's here and what's she going to do, that can put a lot of pressure on a person who is there. And the downside of your own success can be second almost. If you did come second in a race, it would seem like a failure almost because there's such expectation for you to win. Do you feel like now some of that pressure has been removed because now you are the young person running with older women, that the spotlight is taken off you slightly and you can relax and be Innes FitzGerald, just the runner, a bit more without having to constantly feel that you have to be first? Is that fair at all, that there's been a release of pressure there?
Yeah, I think definitely. And I think it's kind of been good for me, I think, because I can go into races now feeling a bit less pressure and kind of be a bit more relaxed going in and not feeling like I have to win or have to kind of prove myself to other people, because there's that comes without the pressure as such.
We've talked about balance. That's been a big thing for you. You seem to have a good awareness and a mature head on your shoulders that, for example, spending 2 weeks getting to know people at uni, it's a key opportunity rather than getting too lost in the running and taking a hit on the running and prioritizing social a little bit at that point to get a more even keel of a university experience. Just tell me, completely unrelated to running, is there anything else that you're passionate about? Any other hobbies that you have, from music to film to TV to anything? Is there anything else that you're interested in?
Most of my hobbies seem to be quite active, which is good in some ways, but also it means that I don't always switch off as much as I should. Most summers I've been teaching sailing at there's like a sea school nearby. And yeah, I've really enjoyed doing that. I kind of like the element of teaching that comes with watching kids like develop a skill. And yeah, I kind of enjoy that side of things. Because I've grown up on a small holding, I always seem to come back to the farm and there's something to do, like whether it's helping do some picking or driving produce somewhere to sell it. My dad always keeps me busy doing something or other.
You were at the Grizzly when you bumped into Joe Pavey for the first time. Talk to me about that conversation. Did you realise who Joe Pavey was? And was that the beginning of the relationship with Gavin and Joe Pavey coaching you?
Yeah, I guess it kind of started then. I was on the bus on the way back from a cross-country race and one of the kind of team coaches was like asking whether I had a coach, like what kind of training I was doing. And I was like, didn't have a coach, wasn't really doing anything with any structure. Somehow some phone numbers got passed around and then, yeah, I arranged to meet up with Gavin and Joe because Joe was starting the Grizzly. So yeah, I went down with my dad and it was kind of a bit strange because I was meeting these people that I had no idea who they were. And in hindsight, I should have just at least Googled who Joe was. But yeah, rocking up and having no idea. And then I kind of went away and went home and then I Googled her and I was like, oh, okay.
You've done something with running, oh.
I think we just kind of just clicked straight away. They're such lovely people and yeah, we kind of like got on from the get-go. And a couple of weeks after we then met for a session and then he started kind of setting me kind of more structured training, but nothing changed dramatically because I hadn't been like doing sessions at all. So it wasn't like, right now we're going to do 5 sessions a week. It was like everything happened very gradually. It kind of felt like nothing was changing, but looking back, my training looks a lot different now than what it used to. They're such amazing coaches because I almost don't feel like things are changing, but they are constantly, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. It must be quite exciting for them. And it seems a bit harsh to just call you a project, but as a project, the sort of Innes project, it must be quite exciting for them as well, I think, to see how you're doing and to have so much success must be very rewarding for them. It seems like Team Pavey FitzGerald is in it for the long run. You've talked before about it being long-term goals. Do you have any sense of what some of those goals are? Is it to medal at championships? Is it to run certain times? Roughly, when you look at those long-term goals, what are some, without sort of nailing you down too much on certain things?
Yeah.
Is it to medal at certain championships?
Gav and Joe have always drilled it into me, like from when we met, it's kind of like we're in it for the long run. It's not about like overnight success kind of thing. And it's only going to get harder and more difficult with years to come. But my eyes are kind of set on the world medals, whether that's, the world champs or Olympic Games. That's where kind of it matters and it counts. If you can run a good time, a few people will look at it, but if you can't perform when it matters, I think my eyes are set on winning medals. That's going to take time, and it's just at the moment about like kind of being better. Yeah,
I'd written down the quote that you'd said before, just be better than yesterday, as being quite a sort of a motto of yours, to just be better than yesterday and take every day as it comes. It seems like, you're someone that's not just saying, right, by 25 I want to do this, 28 I want to do this, when I'm 30 I want to be running this marathon. It's very much just here and now, and you're being quite present, it seems like. You've been the under-20 European cross-country champion for 2023, 2024, which makes you a double winner, if you like. Back-to-back wins. This year, can we see a 2025 under-20 European cross-country champion again in yourself?
Yeah, I'd like to think that's achievable, and it's definitely one of the goals. End my under-20 cross-country career, I guess, on a high.
Absolutely.
And set me up, well, going into under-23s and senior level.
There have been some fantastic times this year, 4:05 in the 1500, obviously that 8:32 in the 3000. You also ran a 5000 PB of 15:08. Absolutely astonishing time, fantastic time, Innes. Has getting that close to the 15-minute mark led you to think at all? I know you're not a big-time planner, but have you started to toy with the idea at some point of breaking the 15-minute barrier for 5,000?
Yeah, it's definitely on my mind and something I want to do. I feel like there was more in that 15:08 race. The conditions weren't great on the day and I didn't go about it tactically that well.
What did you do that you would have done differently?
I kind of went off at, sub 15-minute pace, kind of hit the wall a bit early on. I think it was more mentally than physically. I was like, this is going to be a grind. Should I drop out now? And I'm glad I just finished the race, to be honest. And it was kind of a good way to start the season and remind myself that 5K on the track's hard and I should give it a bit more respect. Under 15 minutes would be amazing, and any quicker would just, be a bonus.
You've now run in the Diamond League. What's the Diamond League like as an experience? Does it feel like it's ramped up in terms of media attention, crowds, or do you just see it as just another race?
I always go into races kind of with the same mindset, like I'm going in there to get as much as out of myself on the day, and prepare in the same way I usually would. And I think that's really important to help get your body ready so it knows that if we're doing this kind of routine, we're getting ready to race. I was stepping on that start line kind of thinking that it was just another race. Obviously the stakes were high, but if I came out last or first, it didn't really matter. It was about just getting the most out of myself on the day and chatting to other people, and just like people messaging me like, I watched the race, and I was like, I didn't even think you liked athletics. Like,
that's really cool.
The last person I'd expect to watch the race. So in that way, it's been really nice, and I'm looking forward to doing more Diamond League races or kind of high level international races against really good girls, because it definitely pushes you on and shows you what's possible and kind of helps you get the most out of yourself.
That's awesome. Well, Innes, we will be watching. Yeah, I wish you all the best for the next couple of years. Really make the most of being at university. It's an incredible time. And I think if you keep that attitude of having the balance as well between running and social life and being more than just the runner, I think that will keep you in a really healthy place. And I wish you all the best. I'll be watching. I know we'll all be excited to see how your career progresses. And I hope you continue to find much success in running. And thank you very much for speaking to me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
JOG ON running kit is wonderfully high quality and always orange. From vests to tops to socks, you can check it all out at thisisjogon.com. Thank you. This has been the JOG ON podcast. I'm Harry Morgan. Go for that run. And this is JOG ON.